Hey, everyone, and welcome to the Pod Place. I don't even know what episode we're up to. No idea. But I'm just happy to be here. Word of warning, you may hear a little voice in the background. Oh, there it is. You might have heard that. I have Frankie Beans home today. That's what we call him in our family. Um, and he does love a chat. So you might hear him in the background, just the reality of running a podcast as a mum, working mum, and having kids at home. So this is just the vibe that's coming out today. Um, I do sound a little bit nasally. I apologize. I have been sick, but I am on the mend, and it's so good to feel good after you've been feeling so bad. Um, but yeah, what's been happening in my world? Well, we just finished the first RB Club launch for the year, and man, I don't even know what to say about this community. It is such a special community, and I just feel so privileged to be running it and to be part of this movement. And we've already had so many wonderful conversations happening within the RB Club since it kicked off. And I'm just really loving it, got to be honest, loving it. If you haven't heard about the RB Club, it is my online parent community that I launched back in November 2024. And it's just growing. It's really, really thriving and so many incredible conversations happening. It's really a one of a kind space for hearing parents on the bilingual journey with their deaf, hard of hearing child, whatever age that might be. We've got people from the US, we've got people from Canada, New Zealand, and Australia, of course. And it's just been a really beautiful space to connect. It's where I share a lot of my time and insights and energy. And I really love serving that community. And it's where I hang out most of the time. I provide a whole range of things from advocacy support to language support. We're doing a 7-day True North challenge about to start on February 3rd, which I'm really excited about. There's just so much happening. I couldn't possibly tell you all about it. But what I'm just loving is how aligned we all are in there and how it really is this no judgment space and everyone is just there for the same purpose, and it's really for our child to thrive, not survive. And we constantly as parents on this journey have people tell us that our kids are going to be fine, they're going to be fine, you worry too much, they're going to be fine. And look, yeah, we really want them to be good and fine, but fine um, is such a sort of throwaway statement that for us as parents who are raising these kids, we don't really just want them to be fine. We want them to be more than fine. We want them to thrive. We want them to have the same opportunities as their hearing peers. We want them to go out there and take over the world. We want them to have access to anything they want, any opportunity they want is it can be theirs. And there's still this really heavy theme sometimes in society, and when you have conversations with people around that whole, oh, well, they're doing really well for a deaf child. They're doing really well for a hard of hearing child. And that, as much as that comes from a well-intended place, it really doesn't help our kids. I'm a huge believer in setting high expectations for our deaf and hard of hearing kids from the very beginning, giving them the tools to achieve and reach their full potential on the same basis as their hearing peers. There is no reason why they shouldn't be able to do that. They're born with the same brain, craving language, craving knowledge, craving connection, craving relationships. And all we have to do is feed that and just watch them thrive. But if we put them in a box where, oh, okay, well, they're a deaf or hard of hearing child, so therefore we're going to put these limitations on them because they're probably not going to be able to do that. We're putting a limiting belief on them. That's not their belief. They can do whatever they want in their head at that young age. They can do whatever they want. And so when whatever we feed them will grow. And so we feed them this idea that they can do anything and we set them those high expectations and we help them reach them, then wow, what a generation coming through. Am I right? How cool would that be to just see this whole new wave of deaf kids just taking over the world? I just get a vision of that and I love it. I love it. Um, anyway, I digress as I always do. Let's get into today's topic. This one is one for the professionals, but also one for the family. I think families, I think people can get something out of this from both lenses. And it really is around, well, it's 5 ways, but it could be sort of six as well, but we'll stick with five. 5 things that have changed in my practice as a teacher of the deaf since having my own deaf child. And the reason I want to talk about this is because when I was a teacher for deaf without a deaf child, I had a very different lens. I had a very different perspective. I was seeing this space through um, a different avenue where there was a lack of that lived experience as a parent, right? And so I made a lot of assumptions. I made a lot of judgments. First to say it, always first to admit when I've done something or made a mistake in the past. Um, I put a lot of, I guess, um, responsibility and blame is a heavy word, but I used to think that parents had not given their children the things that they should have because of something that the parent had done. And that is me being completely transparent because obviously I do not think that at all now. But when you're in that professional space, as much you can work with, I worked with hundreds of parents by this point, right? Before I had Frank, I had worked with hundreds of parents, I had meetings with hundreds of parents, I had taught so many deaf kids by this point. And I still had those beliefs because I didn't have the lived experience of a parent. And wow, was that a learning curve when I had Frank? And whoa, did I have to swallow a lot of um, humble pie, is that what it's called? When I had him, because I realized how wrong I had been. Um, and I'm just so sorry. That's the only word I can think of. I'm just so sorry to the families that I gave advice to and I guess had conversations with from a lens that didn't really support them all the time. I definitely had really great relationships with parents and I did my best and I really just been passionate about this space for so long and these kids. But there was definitely this disconnect. And I think coming now into this world of being a parent to a deaf child and just the emotions that come with that and the decision making and the layer of just this whole new experience and world that I never knew it really existed. I saw parents come into our schools and meeting rooms and things like that, but I didn't see the years and years that they endured on this journey. And so obviously my practice as a teacher of the deaf shifted dramatically when this happened for me with Frank. And I want to talk around the 6 ways, I don't know, 5, 6 things that I have changed in my practice since now being a parent of a deaf child. And I guess things I would have done differently if I had known what I know now. So let's start with number one. Might be pretty obvious to you, but this one's all about no judgment. Because as I said earlier, I did have a lot of judgment, and it wasn't that I ever voiced it and I never sort of really spoke to anyone about it, but it was that inner judgment that you can feel around parents not signing to their kids. So we'd get a lot of language deprived kids who went through the oral pathway, and they, as I said, I've mentioned some case studies before, but you can have a spoken language conversation with them. You can have there's no barriers in that spoken communication, just on those general interactions about common themes and common topics. But then when it came to diving into deeper abstract concepts, getting to write a narrative, getting to retell a story, all of a sudden the gaps were very obvious and the language deprivation was staring us blatantly in the face. And so every time I would see this in a child, or I'd see a child turn up with hearing aids that were flat or anything like that, where they couldn't manage their own devices, they couldn't do the things that I would assume a deaf child should be able to do at certain ages, I always questioned why the parent didn't sign to this child. Why? Because I came from that bilingual training space and I'd just seen the level of language deprivation that I had. I was like, why on earth did they not sign to them? Why did they not give them all the language? This just makes no sense to me. Like, why haven't they taught them how to take ownership of their devices? Why haven't they taught them all these different things? Because I was coming again from a lens of I knew all this stuff. I had this knowledge because I'd worked with kids. I knew what they needed to thrive. But I didn't even think for a second that the parents were firstly going through this incredible roller coaster, right? Even if their child is a teenager when I receive them in our school, there was so much that they had gone through up until that point. They were exhausted, right? I don't know the intervention that they received. I don't know the advice they received. I don't know where they were financially at that time. I don't know where they were mentally or emotionally at that time. Like I was placing a lot of just blanket judgment on parents for not signing to their children when I actually had no idea about their story and how conflicting, how biased, how uninformed that early time in a deaf child's life can be for parents when they're receiving all this information. And so I have no idea what actually happened in that space with these kids for them to be presenting this way. And so I think this is so common for professionals too. And I still have conversations with professionals now who go, well, if the parent had just done more. And I'm like, hang on. We can't go straight to the parent here, right? Because we just don't know what's happening. So the first thing we need to do is remove the judgment, remove any of our own beliefs about how we would raise a deaf child. That's a big one. Well, I would have done it this way, right? Remove all that and just accept and receive the parent where they are. No judgment, just be there, hold the space for them and hold the space for their child and be there to support their child wherever their child is in that moment. Because there is just no place for judgment because honestly, this world is chaos. It's so complex. Navigating it as someone who had the knowledge before I had a deaf child, it was still really bloody hard. So I can't even imagine. I mean, I can now because I've had so many conversations with parents, but I couldn't even imagine the absolute weight of that whole experience for families who have never met a deaf person, who don't know anything about deaf kids, to be told that their child is deaf and then have to go through and navigate that. So the first one really we need to focus on here is no judgment, straight up. The next one is best practice. This is just best practice, best practice, best practice, right? Even as professionals, where we have certain things are our bread and butter, we've worked with so many deaf and hard of hearing kids. We know when things present a certain way, we know that this is the advice we give, right? Even so, number two is we need to keep it family centered, right? This is what I started doing after I had Frank. It was family centered before, but there was always this element of me trying to steer them into a direction that I thought was best. And that's a bit of a slippery slope because we need to, again, meet the family where they're at. They already are going to start building their vision and goals for their child and what they want for their child. And our job is to guide them through that. Yes, we can make recommendations. Yes, we can suggest things. Yes, we can provide them with additional resources to guide them, particularly when it comes to including a sign language, for example, because that's obviously sometimes a fight for us in the field where we know how beneficial a sign language is, but that's a huge hurdle for parents, a huge, huge hurdle. So when it comes to this family-centered approach, we are guiding and supporting and allowing the family to lead with their philosophy, with their vision for their child. And we respect that, we accept that, and we do everything we can to ensure their deaf child or deaf or hard of hearing child thrives. That is our job, right? We want to put everything in place that we possibly can to support that family, to support that parent, to support that child so they can thrive. But we have to respect family choice. And I had someone ask me a question the other day about have I ever taken on a client who was against sign languages and didn't want to include one in their child's life? And yes, I have. I had one or two clients at the beginning. They knew who I was, they knew what my belief was, and they still engaged. And they were like, just want to let you know straight up, we don't want to use sign language. We just want to focus on spoken. And they were really transparent, and that was great. And we worked together for a while. But in the end, that they went and moved on to find someone who was more aligned because they knew, and I'd made it really clear from the start. I said, look, I'm here to support you, and I will give you all the spoken language and auditory skills strategies that I can. I will provide you with targeted goals. We'll do up a language plan, all that sort of stuff. But I said, look, I will be honest with you. I am hugely passionate about a bilingual approach. And so that is going to be a lot of the things that resources I provide you are going to have that entailed in it. And they were like, that's fine, that's fine. But gradually, organically, they moved to a different provider because they realized this is what they were just very adamant. They wanted spoken language. And they realized that they wanted to go with someone who that was more aligned with their philosophy. And that's okay, right? But we were both transparent from the start. We tried to make it work. I was very respectful. And that's exactly what we need to be. The clients and the families that are going to align with us most are the people that we should be supporting. And the ones who need something a little bit different, they will find their support system too. And I think that's really important that we respect and accept and we just do what we do. We always hold our values as a professional and what we believe, but we don't push that intensely onto a family. They're going through so much at this point, right? So much. And bilingualism can be really overwhelming for a family if they don't know the ins and outs of it. I break this down so beautifully in my online program, which is actually getting a revamp. It is called the boot camp at the moment, but it is going to be called a different name very soon. But it's an online program that supports and lays the foundation and really provides clarity for parents on this bilingual journey because it is actually super simple to implement. But parents are overwhelmed when they're told, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, you'll learn a whole new language. Here's the deaf community, here's deaf culture, and it's very overwhelming for them. So we need to ensure that we're constantly aligning our professional recommendations and our support with family choice and their philosophy and respecting that as much as we can. Number three is a really simple one, but again, I think I've seen this happen with a lot of professionals, and I used to do this too. Yeah, I've basically done all the things. Is we jump in to provide our opinion or our perspective or our insight, or we cut parents off, right? We will go, yep, yep, yeah, we're hearing you, but this is what's best practice. This is what's best practice. This is what, this sort of thing, where we're sort of not really listening and validating the parent. We're just wanting to give the advice that we know they need to hear. And so, number three, and something I've really started doing more, is actually just listening and validating and letting the parent talk through the journey from their perspective and at their pace and in the way they need to make sense of it. I see professionals sometimes try to rush parents through that process because you've met with hundreds and hundreds of families. You know how this goes. You've seen the trajectory. So you're like, yeah, let's just get this going. But we need to provide and hold space for families to just talk it through, man. Just talk it through. Talk the journey through. Talk through all the things they're feeling, all the experiences they've had, and just validate that the things that they are experiencing are okay and they are really, really common. And something that I realized is that when I was going through this journey with Frankie early on, I was so lucky to get a really beautiful teacher of the deaf. Yes, I was going through a program for a while where Frankie had his own teacher of the deaf, and she was so good at this. She was just wonderful. She never made me feel like I was being too anxious or being too intense with my advocacy. She would just say over and over again, Claire, you're the parent. You are the parent. You know him best. You are just advocating for your child. And she was such an important person to me in that time at the beginning because I needed that reassurance, even though I knew, but you got two hats going on here, and there's a lot of emotion when it's your child. And we know that when emotion gets involved, rational thinking is the first thing to go. So she was so good at doing that. And I really model that now when I work with families, is this just never making families feel like they're being too much, like they're worrying too much, that they're over the top We're there to listen, we're there to validate, and we're there to support them. This journey is so full on, guys. I cannot even explain to you. So, if you're a professional listening right now, you go into your work, you're passionate about it. I know you are. You go in, you want to work with these families, that's great. You go home, right? You go home and you can switch that part of your brain off for the most part. I know we can sometimes take students and take clients home with us in our brain, but you switch off, you get on with your day, you're with your family, you're doing your thing. Parents don't get that. We don't get to leave this world ever. It is all consuming. It is always there. I was up till 1 a.m. last night worried about things to do with Frank. We don't switch this off. We don't get to switch this off. So please remember that and allow the parent space to just chat it through. They really, really need that. Oh, number four, just I couldn't read my writing. Number four, strengthen their voice. This is something I've started really, really doing. This is like my tagline thing, right? This is my whole thing with parents, is my whole goal and vision is to create an army of parent advocates and parent experts in this space of bilingualism or bimodal bilingualism, because parents are with that child all the time. They know them so well. They know them better than anyone. It's not enough for them to come to your session once a week for an hour and you play with their child, and do the strategies with the child, and then the parent leaves. That is not providing them with the empowerment and the confidence they need to support their child. Parents often feel like they don't know anything and that their voice isn't actually weighted or necessary. I know so many parents where they'll be like, oh, yeah, there was a meeting about my child at the school the other day or at the childcare center the other day. And I'm not really sure what they were talking about, but they sent me an email after. And I'm like, what? No, you call, you reschedule that meeting, you go back, you're in that meeting. There is no way a meeting should be happening about your child without you there. Like, no way, Jose. And so number four is really about instilling in parents that they have a voice and they should be using it, because we know that if we're working in systems where we are bound by red tape and policy and things like that, we can't do a lot. And obviously, a lot of those positions, you can't actually even tell parents what they can do. You're very bound and bound and bound. And that's why a huge reason as to why I got out of the system, so that I could be that person for parents. But we need to remind parents that they are valid and they are valued, and what they think and feel and their opinions and their ideas, they're important and they matter. And they have weight. They hold weight, so much weight. And they need to know how powerful their voice is. The voice is so powerful. Parents, your voice is the most powerful and weighted in the room, right? Until your deaf child can advocate for themselves, your voice is their voice. You need to be there advocating. You need to know how much stronger you are than you think you are, if that makes sense. Your voice is so, so important. Please never forget that. So that's a really big one that I really, honestly, one of the main things I talk about with parents, because there are so many parents out there who have no idea what they can advocate for, no idea what their child needs. They think that everyone is just going to do it for them because that's what they've been told. They have been talked at instead of being guided and supported and led and upskilled as experts of their child. That's the shift we need to see with professionals. And then number five, six, well, it's really like two, but we'll just put it in one. Number five is providing positive, parents need positive reinforcement. And this isn't about like overpraising or anything like that, but we have so much guilt on this journey. I cannot even explain. So much doubt, guilt, second guessing, just what are we even doing? What is going on? Like things like this. A lot of parents do not feel like they got this a lot of the time. And so just reminding them that they do, reminding them that they're good and what they're doing matters, and them, signing and learning to sign, for example, and getting the sign wrong, that's not a big deal. You're doing the thing. You're making the effort. That is what matters. The connection. Remember, I always talk about this. It's not about perfection. It's connection. You are connecting with your child. Well done. You're doing it. You're doing it. You're doing the thing. We need parents to feel motivated, inspired, empowered. We need to be telling them when they're doing the things that are going to really support their child. We need to tell them more. Tell them more. Because they need to hear it. I need to hear it. Someone tell me. No, I'm just kidding. A little bit. But we do. We need that reassurance that everything is going to be okay and that we're doing everything for our child. That's just so big. And with that, I'm going to bring in with that positive feedback and commentary and all that sort of stuff. We also want to be giving them really actionable steps moving forward, while we're working with them that continues to make them feel that way. So we want them to have, and nothing crazy overwhelming, but give them a few quick wins. Give them a few things they can be doing at home with their child that you know is going to really build their confidence, build their skills, and give them an action plan. Give them a prescriptive thing they can look at and go, okay, this is what I'm doing. Because parents, oftentimes, we think parents have absorbed everything we've told them, right? We're like, yep, 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 they get it, off they go. But little do we know, they may leave feeling more in doubt of themselves or like they haven't learned anything in session. And we think we've done a great job and off they go. And that's actually not what's happened. And we need to really give them clarity, give them validation, give them that assurance that they're doing the right job and they're doing the right thing. And here are the steps you're going to take until we meet again. And I'm here for you. And if you have any questions, you can email me, you can message me. I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. Anything you need, because you are doing a great job. And I want to continue to guide you through this. That's what I'm talking about. Okay. So, in a nutshell, those are the things that I have really shifted with my practice as a teacher for deaf. And I think all of those have really organically grown since having Frankie and having this lived experience and being like, whoa, this isn't straightforward. Whoa, this is real foggy and messy. And there's a lot of people telling me different things here. And what do I do? Where do I go? How do I feel comfortable and content and secure in this and in control? What can I do to feel that way? These are some of the things we as professionals can do to make them feel more in control and like they've got this, because that's what parents need to feel. Because when parents feel that way, and we've got these strong, empowered, motivated, knowledgeable parents leading these little deaf people, well, we're going to see a wave of really thriving, kick-ass, deaf and hard of hearing humans going out there and changing the world, right? That's what we're going to see. So it's all about shifting the narrative. It's all about shifting the narrative here, people. And that starts with how we support and guide families. And this, all of that is a really big, all of the things I mentioned today. I don't know why I said tonight, it's bright outside. All of the things I've mentioned today are huge philosophies for me in the RB Club, my online parent community that I run, because I seriously believe that these are the key factors in changing the game for our deaf kids, right? We need to be banding around parents and giving them everything they need to thrive and being that person for them. And I love that I get to be that person for so many people. It honestly brings me so much joy. I can't even tell you. And the fact that RB Club is now a reality and it's thriving and it's growing, and I'm just seeing this beautiful, this vibration of passion coming through this space with these families, it really, honestly, put a fork in me, I'm done. Seriously, it's the best thing ever. And I'm just so grateful. And that'll do me. That's all I'm going to say on that. So, guys, thank you again for tuning in this week for episode. Let's go with 14. Feels good. I'm probably wrong, but let's go with that. And I'm really, really excited. I'm actually interviewing a parent that isn't from Australia this time. So this will be, I'm excited about this because I feel like we've had a lot of Australian parents, which has been so great. And because obviously I'm Australian, I've interviewed a lot of people from Australia, but I do want to I know I have a lot of listeners and viewers from across the seas, all over the world. And so I want to be bringing in the perspectives and experiences of parents in different countries. So I'm really excited to bring that to you next week. Can't wait. Much love to you all. Keep on fighting the good fight and let's shift the narrative together. See you guys. Hey, hey, everyone.